Welcome to My Celluloid Heart podcast. This podcast is normally two films brought together by one topic or theme with trivia to go with it. Right now, though, and until the end of November, we're doing James Bond. I've talked about the Bond films of Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, and Timothy Dalton. Took a little break, and now we're into Pierce Brosnan. And of course, Pierce Brosnan is one of the best. I don't know if he is the best. I'm joined by my cousin, but we'll get to him in a second. Trying to get some things to work here, some intro themes and whatnot. Welcome to season 3, episode 64 of 007 Goldeneye 1995. And I have no corrections from last show, and I'm joined by my cousin Chip Areno.
That is me. Yeah, my middle name's Areno.
Yeah. And he's here to promote his thing, and I'm promoting my thing, and whatever. He's been on before, but we're also now on his YouTube page. So if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can click on there. And
our faces for radio.
That's right. Tell me about it. Tell my wife about it. And so Chip, tell me whatever you want to tell before I get into. I got some voicemails to play. I got some Goldeneye things to do. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you noticed, but while we were setting everything up in the corner where my name is supposed to be, I changed it to iChipness.
Sweet.
So I just started the YouTube channel. It's basically just going to be about me writing and about me, honestly, showing who I am as a writer, creator, sometime artist, whenever I feel the mood. But I really wanted to bring it together with not just that content, but also this content, me and you together, because I honestly don't get to see enough of you.
Yeah.
And I think this would be
zoom in. Zoom
that's
in.
true. That is true. More of me. That is true. But then
zoom out to see more of me. Zoom in to see less of me.
Yeah. Well, I want you to stand on the table and
I would. I pull a Pee Wee Herman.
Yes.
Big Adventure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just started it. On my first video, my intro video I posted it last night. And this is the second video. This podcast will be the second video on the channel. Hopefully we'll be able to get you the link so that you can say something about where my channel is, because it doesn't actually, since I haven't gone far enough into the channel to where it's become a thing, you don't get an actual name as your site. Kind of it's all a bunch of numbers and letters.
Well, and it's right, and it's like you probably had a lot of subscriptions the other day, and that was me signing up. Trying to get my YouTube figured out. So on my YouTube, as I told everybody, I used to do My Celluloid Heart podcast. I mean, I still do it. It's kind of a funny podcast, was my podcast. So I have a YouTube channel under It's Kind of a Funny Story, or It's Kind of a Funny Podcast. And all the good things that I follow and subscribe to are under that. But there's nothing really under My Celluloid Heart for YouTube. So I'm like, well, fuck. So I had to re-switch it. So I signed up, subscribed to you under It's Kind of a Funny Story. Then I subscribed to you under My Celluloid Heart, and then under Philip Duke, and like it was a whole thing. So you were probably like, holy shit, I got 3 things while I was sleeping.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so there's that going on. The other thing was So yeah. So Chip's writing a book. I'm sorry. Did we breeze over that? I don't mean to breeze over it.
That's no problem.
We're doing this new thing. We're recording, so it's video, and I'm also trying to get my audio. Where normally I just drop shit in, and now I gotta figure it out a different way. So
yeah,
it's all kinds of
Gen X trying to figure out this technology.
Oh my God! Tell me. Sometimes I feel like an old man when I'm going. How does this thing work?
Well,
But
it doesn't help that our vision starts going, and we're sitting there going, like, I can't even see this. What the hell?
Well, but speaking of Goldeneye, I watched a 2 hour and 11 minute thing of Pierce Brosnan watching Goldeneye, talking about it while it's playing. He had the sound down and he's watching it, and he would get lost in it every once in a while. Or he'd get lost on cable TV, I think, playing on the other TV. And he'd be like, but then he'd lean way into the camera and be like, I hope this thing's recording. He said, he goes, Esquire, I really hope this is still working. I hope you guys can all hear me. I hope this is on. He goes, the kids help me hook it up. And you're like, oh my gosh. So that's how I feel. It's like, oh my God, hang on. Like I can figure out some shit, but some things I can't. But anyway, it's under iChipness, ICHIPNESS. And then it'll ask you, do you mean IHOPness? No, I don't want pancakes. I'm talking about cousin Chip. So,
maybe hopness is for beer. Hops in
and he
beer.
did iChipness, not because he's an Apple fiend, but because iWriterly that he watches.
It was an homage.
It's almost like people in the phone book back in the day were like, what should I name my company? We'll name it AAA, name it A something, and it'll pop up first thing in the phone book when people open it up to go to plumbing, and they go, A Good Plumber. Oh, it's AG, unless you go I don't know, a good plumber.
A bad plumber.
A bad plumber, but then call you. I was going to say a bad plumber, but nobody call you that. But anyway, we're not here to talk about plumbing. We're here to talk about James Bond. But so if there's, like I said, no corrections, I still can't believe that I didn't know Benjamin Bratt. But if there's anything that I miss or any recommendations of movies that you want me to see after I'm done with this James Bond thing, or you want to complain about some James Bond shit, let me know at mycelluloidheart@gmail.com, or you can send us a voicemail or a text at 602-688-2403. That's 602-688-2403. And in fact, we have a voicemail for this.
This is Joe, the tire guy down on 42nd Street, and I got your car. This is the number that was left on the ticket. I don't know what a pod cart is, but this is the number that's on the ticket. And let me look. It's for Duke. Sometimes Phil Duke. It's your little gray DB5. You wanted us to throw some new tires on it. And, oh man, them tires is kind of hard to find, but by God, I found them, and they'll be right around $800. But we've got a little bit of a problem. My brother Daryl, he was pulling that car in the shop and pulling it up on the lift, and goddamn, I don't know what the hell he did, but I think he might have hit a button or something, and a rocket shot right out of front of that car and blew up our balance machine. So I got you the 4 new tires, and I wasn't able to balance them, so it might ride a little rough right off the bat. So I'm not going to charge you for the balance. But there is a little problem with the cost of my new balance machine. So if you could give me a call back or come on down to the shop, because we're too afraid to touch the son of a bitch, because we don't know what else.
Oh, shoot. Hang on.
Going to happen. So, once again, this is Joe, the tire guy down on 42nd Street. If you could come on down to the shop or give me a call, I'd much appreciate it. Once again, this is for Duke. Sometimes Phil Duke. Appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you. Goodbye.
was awesome.
Thank you, Jojo, the tire guy. Yeah, sometimes those James Bond cars, they act up on you. So, yeah.
It'll happen. You got to remember to put on the safety.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I should have pulled it in there like totally on a, un-James Bond scariness, with all the weapons off. But, yeah, I did not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was I'll go ahead and tell you guys, that was my friend Matt Rich at Why Daddy Drinks, and he was like, hey, I'm gonna call. He goes, what kind of car is that? And I told him what kind of car it was. Okay, I'm gonna call. I said, okay. He goes, if you don't like it, just erase it. I go, no, it's fucking hilarious.
You used to do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Every week, something new.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
So now I'm gonna play this. Hopefully this will work. Like I said, it's all different. We got to do it live on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to talk about Goldeneye, so here's a little teaser.
On November 17th, United Artists brings you the return of Bond. James Bond. Goldeneye, rated PG-13.
There you go. So that actually works without a flaw, finally. One thing. Yeah. So let me tell you, Chip, and everybody else who may need to know, hey, what's Goldeneye about? When did that come out? That came out in 95. As my cousin might tell you, he hasn't told me enough, but he did tell me it was, and I go, 90s? Yeah. Came out in 95. Years after a friend and fellow 00 agent is killed on a joint mission, a secret space-based weapons program known as Goldeneye is stolen. James Bond sets out to stop a Russian crime syndicate from using the weapon. Dun, 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 dun. So, hang on. I just minimized my screen so I could see my cousin. Okay. So, did you like the story, Chip?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week. Yeah.
Actually, I like the story. I remember I was telling my wife that I remember first seeing the trailer and being a fan of Roger Moore. I pretend like the ones in between Roger Moore and Goldeneye don't exist.
The Timothy Dalton one?
Yes.
Really?
Oh God, yes.
Go ahead.
But when I saw that, all that was packed into that one movie, so much stuff.
Yeah.
I realized by the end of this movie, I went, planes, trains, automobiles, and tanks. So I think they had everything. I mean,
yeah, you might as well, you throw everything at it.
Yeah, I was kind of like blown away by that. I was like, wow. It's like,
well, and there's the things of the people with. Oh yeah, I did have a correction from last week. I just remembered. My correction was I said that I did like 14 of these by myself, and then I did 4 of them with people. But the truth is actually I did 11 by myself and 4 with people, and that makes 15, and then 25 will be done when I'm done here, however that works. Anyway,
numbers.
A lot of people don't like Timothy Dalton. A lot of people don't like George Lazenby. If you guys can watch the making, it's called Becoming Bond. It's on Hulu. It is an amazing documentary about how he bullshitted his way onto the franchise. Said, yeah, I act. I do all kinds. He was in like some commercials, didn't really act, was like, yeah, I can do that. I get my suits everywhere. But he just went to where Sean Connery got his suits and got a suit. I was like, yeah, I can do it all. They put him on the movie. He does a movie afterwards. He's like, fuck this shit. Grows his beard out, doesn't dress like they want him to. And he's like, screw it. Wow. And a lot of people say that's one of their favorites because that's where Bond got married and she died. Spoiler alert. And
oops.
But let's get into first who stars in this, and then I'll tell you more about Timothy Dalton. So Pierce Brosnan is James Bond. Sean Bean is Alex Trevelyan, and he actually goes all the way to the end of the movie. He doesn't. This is before he started dying. You see him in the
In
movie.
everything.
You go, yeah, you see Lord of the Rings, and you go, "Oh, I hope he." Oh, he didn't make it. Spoiler alert again for a whale movie. Isabel Skorupko as Natalia Simonova. Famke Jensen as Xenia Onatop. Joe Don Baker as Jack Wade. Judi Dench as M. Alan Cumming as Boris Grishenko. Alan Cumming, so great. Dennis Llewellyn as Q, and Samantha Bond, her name is Bond, as Moneypenny. So that was Pierce Brosnan's Moneypenny, because the Moneypenny, she left after Roger Moore and her left at the exact same time.
Well, that's what's weird is that one that played Moneypenny in this movie, by the end of that little interaction that they had in the beginning, I was like, she needs her own damn movie. She should have went up. They should have had her own, the story of Moneypenny.
Yeah, somebody wrote a book though, actually, where they sent Moneypenny on missions. It was on one of my things that I was talking about.
Nice.
And so crazy. Calm down. Hey, chill.
Puppy craziness.
That's right. It was written by the characters by Ian Fleming, the story by Michael France, screenplay by Jeffrey Kane and Bruce Fierstein, and Fierstein, like Kirsten Dunst, maybe, I don't know. And a fact, we were talking about the story of this. Due to several plot parallels between this movie and 94's True Lies, the script had to undergo some last minute changes. So you know how like True Lies was kind of like that thing. It was almost the same exact thing. And then directed by Martin Campbell, who did Mark Zorro, and I don't know what he did before this, but Pierce Brosnan was saying that he was really like, give me 150%, give me 110. He said he wouldn't be like, okay, action. He would be like, action, like really screaming it. It was like, holy shit.
Well, he probably needed it coming from Remington Steel, where they're just like doing their little action, like the, whatever. And he's like, no, I need you to be running and jumping and shooting.
And that's the other thing where somebody asked Pierce Brosnan if he is Bond, if he takes anything from Bond. And he's like, I think we all wish we could be Bond, or we walk and we're cool and we're in tuxedo, whatever. Yeah. He goes, but no, he said, what would be funny? He said, I'd love to see an outtake reel of every time that I walked across to shoot at the gun barrel, to do the gun barrel sequence. He said, because I'm clumsy, I'm tripping, I'm like, something that's so easy. All you got to do is walk from here to here. Something else that he told that's a funny story about just acting is that this one I didn't tell you. You're thinking I was going to repeat myself. Is that when they were doing World Is Not Enough and he has to ski down the slope, he was like, look, I don't want to do a Roger Moore like process shot. I want it to look good. How can we make it look pretty good? And they go, no problem. We got a thing. They put a skidoo on the front, skidoo on the back, put him in the center, had like 3 cameras facing him, had him get on his knees with little baby poles. And then he would just move like this, and they would come down the hill, and they did the whole. And when they got down to the bottom of the hill, he goes, "There's real men with their skis and their beautiful girlfriends and wives, and they're getting ready to get on a ski lift, and they see me come in on my knees, pretending to be skiing, and they're just like." He goes, "We did that all day," and I'm just like, "Oh,
wow,
it was funny." Another one that was funny that's just that movie magic thing is. On Die Another Day, somebody asked like, I think they were making a joke. They're like, oh, did you learn to surf? Did you know how to, like, because you can tell it's not him surfing.
Yeah.
He was like, no. He goes, they hired the best surfer and said, put goggles on, this camouflage thing, and come on in. And he said, they did really good where it's hard to ski with goggles on. Ski. Yeah. Ski? No.
Surf.
And with the goggles on. And I know, I was like, ski board? That don't sound right. And so he goes, we did all that. And he said, then when they're done, he goes, then I remember I'm in a full wetsuit, squeaking down Pinewood Studios down the little hallway squeak, 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 with all my gear on, and people are squirting me with water. And then I just go and like kneel down by some bushes, take off the goggles, and that's the transition from the real surfer dude to him just pulling the goggles off. He's like, it's hysterical. So, but anyway, we're not here to talk about Die Another Day, the most horrible, worst movie in the Bond franchise. Anyway, I'll get to that when I get to Die Another Day. So legal issues prevented the MGM from getting a new Bond movie out after Living Daylight, or after License to Kill did like so horribly. So it was like the longest wait between films, 6 years in the franchise. I'm thinking with COVID, with the way this is working now, like this was supposed to be out in 2020, and it might be longer for them to get something up and running, but who knows?
Yikes.
And then in 1990, before the title and plot were locked down, producer Michael G. Wilson contributed a treatment. Excuse me. Sorry for my dogs, everybody. And wise guy writer Alphonse Ruggiero was hired to flesh it out onto a screenplay, with Timothy Dalton intended to return as Bond. So Dalton left like in 94, which sucks because I think he was tired of it because he was getting shit from Chip all the time, emails and whatever they had in 94 of like, you suck. I ignore those movies. I don't know what happened. Robert Davi was the best part of that, but I liked him in Goonies more.
True. Yes, I did. I did send that email.
How dare you make Q look bad? So I think he was going to quit anyway. But if he would have waited one more year, they would have been like, let's do Goldeneye, maybe. But then again, I don't know how much. I'd have to look at how he looked in 94, because in 89 he still looked good. But 6 more years now, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. He doesn't. I think he took over for what's it called? It's one of the DC shows on this, not the CW. Well, it was on
the
DC universe
or whatever. Yeah.
Which now I guess it switched over. Doom Patrol. He took over. Like it had the initial pilot, but then he took over as the head of all of them, because they're all people that kind of have to hide away. Like nobody's allowed to see them because they're, really messed up kind of heroes, I guess you would call. But he still looks good. I was like, wow, like does that man even age?
Yeah, I saw him in Hot Fuzz and he looked good, but even so, what was it that you didn't like about him being Bond? Just
I don't know.
Seriousness of it. It was too dark.
I don't really know. I don't know if it was just a mix of him and kind of how bad some of the stuff was in the film, you know what I mean, themselves, kind of a thing, like the mix between. I don't know. It's almost like a it's just a compilation of it, because I'd have to go back and rewatch them, because I could totally be like now watch them and go, they're good. It was just then I was just like, because I think maybe I was just, you're not Roger Moore, fuck off.
Yeah.
But also when you get to Pierce Brosnan being the character, you're used to Remington Steele. You were used to him being that guy.
Right.
Because you'd seen him in that. So it fit. It was just like he fluidly went into it. Timothy Dalton was the "you're not my Bond" era for me, I guess.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, but do me a favor. Watch A View to a Kill first. Roger Moore's last film. Way too old to be Bond. He knew it, but he's like, you want me to do it again? I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Then watch either Living Daylights or License to Kill. And then be like, oh, okay, but they're good. But I get what you're saying. And also kind of like what Pierce Brosnan said about the new Daniel Craig movies was, Daniel Craig's killing it as Bond. Like, keep doing it. Like, I have nothing to say to you other than don't regret what you did with the Bond franchise and just move forward and go on to other roles. He's like, but the only thing is, he said, now the movies don't have any humor in them as much as they did before. He said, I took a little bit of Sean Connery, a little bit of Roger Moore, put them together, made it my own thing, and then was like, that's what we're doing, you know. And
that was the part of this that kind of, I was actually shaking my head watching this movie, was how many one-liners there were.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Like, it was just crazy. The interaction between him and 006 was cool.
Yeah.
Because they were, the banter was going back and forth. But when it was everything that happened, he would look at the girl and say some one-liner that has to do with the surroundings of what just happened. And I was just like,
well, and he was even saying there was some line, he was like, oh, here's a one-liner coming. And it was something that, it's one of those where you say it wrong and it's not going to come out. Or like, he was like, I hate those. I think he even said, like, I hate those one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, some people can do it, some people can't. And I'm thinking, all I was thinking of when he said that was Arnold. Yeah. Arnold could throw out a one-liner, doesn't bother him no matter what. You know, he was dead tired. Don't bother my friend. He's dead tired. You know, you said, let you go. I let you go, you know, whatever. Yeah. I'll be back, you know, all that stuff. But anyway, back to my fact real quick. So they were that version of the story that they were going to have Timothy Dalton in was The Property of a Lady, which is one of the short stories by Ian Fleming. And it would have taken the Bond film series to Hong Kong. So that would have been cool. They went to Hong Kong in Skyfall or Spectre, one of those. I think it was Spectre. I don't know. I haven't seen those as much as I've seen all these old ones.
Yeah.
And then like what you were saying about Remington Steele, I remember, and you and I talked about it, and me and whoever my friends were at that time, was other actors were considered to play the part of Bond, or rumored to be, included Liam Neeson, Mel Gibson, and Sam Neill. So this was like right after Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam Neill still I don't see as like a hero.
No.
But back in the day when he was even younger, when I've seen him in some older stuff where he's, you know, he could be. Liam Neeson, I don't think so. Mel Gibson for sure. I remember thinking like, yeah, Mel Gibson maybe. But you were talking to me about, maybe I'm bringing this up at the wrong time, but it's my show.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about, recasting.
Mm-hmm.
And and then real quick, sorry. And then at one point, because this goes with the casting, at one point, the press reported that Bond's gender was going to be swapped, which they've commented on after Daniel Craig was like, I'm done. They said the gender might be swapped, and Sharon Stone was considered to play the role. So that would have been way weird.
Wow. Yeah. I don't.
But you were talking about recasting who I would cast in this film.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked up like who were some stars in 94, 95.
Mm-hmm.
And one that came up that I thought about because The Gentleman was a good movie was Hugh Grant. That would have been totally against type, like a Michael Keaton doing Batman, where everybody's like Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice. It would have been like the guy from 9 Months is going to be James Bond. Like, I don't think so. What happened to your headphones? Oh, Chip's having a brain aneurysm.
No, I was hearing myself.
So anyway, so it would have been taking the guy from 9 Months and putting him in a James Bond movie. So that would have been weird.
That
and
would
then,
be cool.
Not to put them together, but just because while I was thinking of that, then I thought, oh, a good Bond girl would be Elizabeth Hurley.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she'd be cool. And especially back around that time, like she was, you know, gorgeous. She still is gorgeous, but yeah. And then I don't know who, Xenia Onatopp, like that's one where like I don't know. My hands are in the air because I have no idea. She does so good.
Mm-hmm.
And Pierce Brosnan was like, she just gave it her all and was just like, and she went with it, and he goes, and it was crazy. So
yeah, she did that. She's probably the best overall as far as, I mean,
I'm listening. I'm sorry.
Well, and if I were to do a recast now, not really back then, but now, if they were to basically say, okay, we're redoing Goldeneye right now.
Yeah.
I would probably get, I'm blanking on his name right now, but Loki.
Jack Black to be James Bond. Loki, yeah. Tim Hiddleston.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, I would get him now to be.
Yeah. That's what, and that was one of the rumors that they were talking about. But then also I heard that this show on Netflix called The Bodyguard, I think it's a movie or it's a short series. It's called The Bodyguard. And they said that guy, I remember it came out, I thought it was official. This guy's going to be Bond. And I looked at him and I'm like, okay, cool. And he's younger than Craig was when he came on. So he seems like he's 28, something like that. So that would be cool. But anyway, let's get into the movie and then I'll drop some facts in there. So I'd been waiting, like I said, 6 years for this movie to come out. And I think you and I talked and we said we probably went together to go see it. And that opening sequence of him running on the dam, like you just see the gate open, him running, he's dropping something. You're like, oh, he's going to rappel down this dam. Cool. And then all of a sudden he's standing there and you're like, holy shit, I think he's going to bungee jump. And he fucking bungee jumps and you're like, fucking sweet. And when they did that stunt guy just barely pulls the gun out in time. Like he was like, I remember reading interviews with him or seeing him where he was like, I just pulled the gun out just in time to extend my arms. And then he goes out of view. So if he would have been, and they had already set him up. And Pierce Brosnan said they were doing that scene and he goes, and they kept calling him up there, the stunt man, let's get ready to do this. And then they go, no, the weather's bad. And then they go, okay. And then they kept doing it. And then he goes, finally, they went there. The weather's good. He goes to do it, extends his arm. He looks over at the crane operator, and the crane operator like crosses himself. Is like, and he's like, oh shit. And then he jumps. Yeah.
Oh, that's scary. That's fun.
But yeah. And then the gun barrel sequence, walk and shoot. That started it. Yeah. I was waiting 6 years, and then the gun barrel. And then the alarms, and they set the timers for 6 minutes. And you can join in anytime.
Well, my thing is, what I really liked was the fact that when he was going for the actual plane, that when the plane thing happened, it was kind of I for some reason in my mind, when he got into the plane, he automatically like knocked the guy out and then was in the plane. For some reason, my brain was going that direction. I go, no, that's not right. And then I was like, oh yeah, he falls out again.
Yeah.
Gets on the motorcycle. I was like, son of a,
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah. Okay. And so I realized I was like, that was the part that I was waiting for. Like, cause I guess in my mind, having not seen it for so long, my brain went to him jumping off the dam as being like the big thing. And I was like, no, that's not right. It was something else. And then I was like, oh yes, him trying to get to the damn plane after everything goes, before everything goes kaboom from the 3-minute timer. And I was like, oh Jesus. Like, yeah.
Well, no. And and even before that, like that little bit of comedy before he goes running for the plane, when he's pushing the car, the squeaky
and it's wheel. So slow.
But it's just like squeak, 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 as he's like hiding behind it. And they're like, don't shoot. And then that one guy shoots and he yells at him.
Well, he turns around and shoots him in the head. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You shoot, I shoot.
But then, another just a mindless little story that now is stuck in my head. This is why I watch these 2 hour and 11-minute things with Pierce Brosnan, so I can get these little stories. He was like, I can do that roll on the conveyor belt. No problem. I can do it. I'm healthy. I can do it. Yeah. Martin Campbell's like, no, we got guys to do it. No, I can do it. He goes, that stunt guy did it like 15 times until we got it. And he goes, as I'm watching it, I'm going, I see what he means. Like there's certain, you die on that bridge. Do you want to die on that bridge? Because he talked about maybe one more Pierce Brosnan story that I'll tell. So he's doing World Is Not Enough, where he's sliding on that thing down the hallway and that explosion behind him. And the explosions are going off all by him. But he's like, I'll do it. They're like, okay, because people asked him, what's the most dangerous stunt you did in all the Bond films? So he said, so I do that. I go, I can do it. And just hold on to this thing. I go, no problem. He goes, I get there. I'm looking around. There's dynamite explosives all down this hallway. And they're going, oh, as you go, the explosions will blow up behind you as you're going. He's like, okay. So he goes, I'm holding on and I'm going. And as the things are exploding, I'm thinking, what the fuck did I what am I doing? Why am I here? Am I going to live? And he goes, and one of them exploded and caught the back of his hair on fire and his back. And he said, so they put it out and everything was fine. He goes, that day, he goes, then we got done about lunch. He's like, I'm done. He said he goes to his car and there's Sean Connery going to his car, parked right next to him. And he's like, Sean, what are you doing? You know, they knew each other already. And Sean's like, let me ask you, are they paying you well? And he goes, well, you know, Sean. And Sean's like, just make sure they're paying you well. And he goes, that's all he said. He goes, he was there for a haircut. He goes to the studio to get a haircut. Like, it's like, wow. It's like, that's probably how he saves money, you know? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was just funny. But
you've heard all the stories about him.
So yeah. Hey. Sorry, my dog's eating my headphones.
Rude.
Yeah. Bring those over here. You're not that talented. So yeah, that run for the plane. So he like gets out of there, and the thing that me and Jason were talking about Indiana Jones, we're on that. You know, we did all 3 Indiana Jones movies. Might do the 4th one. We don't know. We're undecided because.
I think you've already decided in being undecided.
But we said Indiana Jones is a guy who just makes up shit as he goes. And that's why we love him. And that's what I was like, that's what Bond is. Bond is like, I was watching, you know, Cinema Sins did a thing like everything wrong with Goldeneye in 14 minutes. And they're like, why is this gate opening? You know, they said, okay, now he's running for the plane. Granted, the thing's going to explode. He's got nowhere else to go. He's got to make a run for the plane, right? Okay, we understand that. The odds of him riding the motorcycle off the thing to catch the plane, to start the plane, to have it go, are like winning the lottery, then going in to a slot machine in Vegas, hitting the big jackpot, and then going home and being struck by lightning, like all these 3 things. But it's like, but it works because it's that just making shit up as he goes. And he's like, you know, I'll just, you know, I'll die trying, you know.
Well, now watching the scene of him jumping after the plane and everything, being older now, I'm sitting here going, I'm thinking physics. I'm like, is he going to be able to catch up to the plane? Or are they just going to fall at the same rate?
Yeah. yeah.
Like even if he puts his arms like this.
Yeah, 32 feet per second, like, you know, a feather and a brick, like they'll both fall the same, and he's just going to be like, I can't catch it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That would be funny and just dead. But then we wouldn't have a movie.
That's true.
But that is maybe the bungee jump is way cool. I'll have my brackets at the end for this movie. The bungee jump's way cool, but that plane thing is like up there with Spy Who Loved Me going off the cliff and pulling the Union Jack, where you're like, he's got no parachute. And again, so you went skiing, you just happened to put on a parachute, like you knew that these guys with machine guns would chase you off the edge.
A little more far-fetched compared to just having the perfect items, you know, handed to you from Q to.
Well, and that's what I liked. It's what I like about Die Another Day, which I've talked about, is that in every James Bond movie, that's what I don't like. Here's the gadgets you may need. And of course, he needs that exact gadget. On this one, they do.
Now, if they gave him like 5 gadgets and he didn't use like 3 of them or something like that, or 2 of them, or he used them in a way that was not expected, like in any way where you're like, he MacGyvered that shit and you're like, what?
And that's the only thing that I like about Die Another Day, which I've talked about before, but I haven't told you, but maybe you already know because you know me. He's driving on the ice with his Aston Martin. It flips over. He's skidding on the roof because that guy blew up the mountain or whatever. And he's skidding on the roof, and he opens the sunroof, hits the ejector button on the seat that has been there since Goldfinger, you know, same kind of ejector seat. But he uses it now to flip the car back over onto its wheels. And you're like, fucking yes. And that's what you want, is him to be like, oh, I have a laser watch, but I'm going to use this to fucking shoot this guy in the eye when he's trying to attack me or something. You know? But anyway, then the theme song starts. And this theme has got to be, I'll say, the second best theme of all James Bond movies. I'll ask you in a second, but let's play a little bit of it.
See reflections on the water, more than darkness in the depths. See him surface in every shadow.
Anyway, I'm sorry I cut it off. I didn't want YouTube to get in trouble or somebody.
Yeah.
The best song, Live and Let Die. The second best, Goldeneye. And then maybe Goldfinger for Bond songs. I know you don't know enough of them to know. And a little thing in here was she wasn't the first choice to do the song. Ace of Base was. Because Ace of Base had like the biggest number one, like
I saw the sign.
Their very first album was like huge.
Yeah.
So they recorded Goldeneye, but their record label pulled it and the song because they thought they were worried that the movie is going to be a flop and hurt the band standing. So it obviously did not flop. And Base's song was eventually released as The Juvenile with slightly altered lyrics. But I found on YouTube, and I'm going to share it on my Facebook page, the Goldeneye lyrics of Ace of Base.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So it's pretty good. She's got a good voice. I don't know enough of Ace of Base, but no, okay. Maybe not the third. Third song might be A View to a Kill by Duran Duran.
I was going to say Duran Duran is my number one.
I forgot about Duran Duran. Oh, that's your number one. So you love View to a Kill. You should watch it again. Tanya Roberts, not so. She's just like anyway. Listen to my View to a Kill episode and let me know. Daniel Kleineman did the main titles, and they're pretty cool with the all the Russian stuff and all that. And then it goes into that chase. He's in a DB, I guess a DB7, but it's like a DB5. Like he's in the old car.
Yeah.
And she's chasing him, and there's fucking people on bicycles and shit. And it's like, what the fuck? And go ahead.
It's weird though, because when I'm watching that scene, I don't know why it just brought me to National Lampoon Vacation. With her on the side, and I was just like, it just made me think.
Yeah, the red Ferrari did it.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there like looking at it, going, "This is weird." Like it's kind of but he's obviously not trying to play off like he's not interacting. It's kind of like the person's there with him, going, "What are you doing?" Like freaking out the whole time. You're like, "Oh, this is awesome."
He's just racing her, and then when it goes to them playing poker or baccarat or whatever they're playing at the casino,
I remember that screwing me up because it didn't have numbers in the corner.
Oh, really?
I was like, how the do you play this? Like, Becca was like, I don't understand these European people.
They had, well, that's why I was telling everybody, go off on the tangent. This is what happens when my cousin doesn't listen to my podcast. On my prequel to this Bond stuff is Casino Royale, the original from like 1950, whatever it was. It was a TV movie. And on there, the guy explains to him how baccarat works.
Oh.
And it's like, and you get it. And it's like, oh, it's like 21. I have to have the higher card or whatever. Anyway, very cool. But that scene of them playing poker is almost identical to Dr. No when you first see James Bond and he's lighting up a cigarette. And this is where I've told people that he gets his, nobody, I don't say my name's Duke, Philip Duke, I say I'm Philip Duke. But when he asked Sylvia Trench in Dr. No, like, what's your name? Yeah. He goes, you're pretty lucky, Mrs. And she goes, Trench, Sylvia Trench. And she goes, and you're pretty lucky, Mr. And he goes, Bond, James Bond. And it's like, are you saying that because she said it or, Yeah. And then he lights up his cigarette. It's the coolest fucking moment in movie history, maybe. And this one is almost identical. She's wearing like this red dress, like almost in the same seat that the other girl was in, like just really beautiful, like in that, like just iconic film image, like just, and that's Pierce Brosnan saw her. He was like, when he's watching it again, he's like, look at her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I love the flirtation with her when he's like, how do you take it? And she's like straight up with a twist. And you're like, tongue in cheek. I get it. And I love where he's like, yeah, those are counterfeit plates. They start with an F and not an L. And I'm like, fucking yes. Like those are little things that you don't even have to put into a script, but you put that in, it makes it a little better. Like that's how good Bond is. He's always observant. He's always checking. That's why also maybe he followed her and did this whole thing. Cause he's like, those are counterfeit plates. I got to find out more about this person. But also he's like, oh, look, there's a vagina. And he just goes for it.
Yes.
So,
That's the whole reason why my wife walked out, was because of his first interaction with the girl in the car or whatever. She was like, are you kidding me right now? And I go, that's Bond. And she goes, that's bullshit. She just walks out. And I was like,
Did you say, let me get you started with Goldfinger, where he takes a lesbian and turns her straight. Pussy Galore. That right away. She'd be like, wait, what's her name? Pussy Galore? I'm out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's like my wife's like, the only thing my wife has said about these movies when she first bought them for me on Blu-ray and we go to watch Dr. No, and she's like, when was this movie made? And I said 1962 or 3, I forget. And she's like, well, 62. And she goes, it looks really good. And I go, yeah, she goes, it looks like almost like not brand new, but it looks newer than 62. And I'm like, yeah. And that was the only thing. But she's like, I'm not going to watch any of the Bond things till you get to Daniel Craig. Then I'll watch them. I'm like, okay, honey. Anyway, we're taking way too long on all this. Look at that. We've been talking this long and we're only this far into the movie. Jesus Christ, Chip.
Fast forward.
Okay. Yeah. And then a radio printer, like he can see things in the monocular and prints it out. She kills the Admiral. They steal the helicopter. So I wrote down like these detailed notes. Then I tried to break them down, but they're still broke down into like beats of things. But then they take the helicopter, they steal the Goldeneye, and the Bond girl survives, which is like, how do I get out? And then just happen to the thing smashes and she can get out.
Yeah.
And the new Moneypenny, like you were talking about this scene of them, I wrote down all the dialogue because I love it. He's like, why are you all dressed up? She's like, if you must know, I was on a date with a gentleman. We went to the theater together. He says, Moneypenny, I'm devastated. What would I ever do without you? She says, as far as I can remember, James, you've never had me. And you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
that's why I was like, bam.
Yeah. And then he's like, hope springs eternal. And she's like, this sort of behavior could be qualified as sexual harassment. He says, really? What's the penalty for that? She says, someday you'll have to make good on your innuendos. And it's just, and that's the stuff like I've said with the original, with Lois Maxwell, like her and Bond, like always had this thing where they were, they never crossed that line. It was just fun flirting. It was just very cool. And then they find the Bond girl. They find Natalia Fyodorova. And in case you're keeping track, this was the first on-screen appearance of MI6 Chief of Staff Bill Tanner since For Your Eyes Only in 1981. And then Bond and M, like that whole thing is like amazing. And so good. Like,
their interaction, the way that she treats him in the beginning of talking about his chauvinistic, everything.
Yeah,
and then at the very end, she just like, come back alive, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, yep, exactly. And then we get to the Q branch, like everybody's been waiting for. He's got the electric wheelchair. He's like, what happened to the leg? Skiing accident? He's like, no, hunting. And he fucking shoots a rocket out of his leg and out of the cast. And a new BMW with rockets in the headlights, a belt he can rappel with, and a class 4 grenade and a pin. 3 clicks arms, a 4-second fuse, and another 3 clicks disarms it. And then he picks up his sub sandwich and he's like, what does this do? And he goes, drop that. That's my lunch.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, he's just like inspecting it, like, what?
Yeah.
Grabs it from him. Like, what the hell are you doing? Farming my food.
Yeah. And then this part, I usually don't like Joe Don Baker, because of just, we grew up in the 80s. I knew Walking Tall was big. I never saw Walking Tall still. But on Mystery Science Theater, they had a thing called Mitchell. And it was a Joe Don Baker movie. And it was so cheesy and so bad. Him and Linda Evans, like,
Yeah.
that I was just like, but he was in Living Daylights, and then he's in this movie. And I love when, so it's like in London, April's a spring month, and they got the whole thing back and forth. And then they go to get in the car, and Pierce Brosnan like blocks him up with the door, and he pulls his gun out, and that's something like, I was like, that's what Connery would do. Connery's Bond would do that, like trap you somehow like that and take your shit. And then him meeting Valentin, like, that's like so cool. Like,
well, I'm still going back on that. The fact that he had to, like, they didn't have to put this part in the movie, but for him to pull down and show the rose tattoo that says Muffy on it, I was like, they didn't need that, but that was awesome. I was like, seriously, you're going to make me show this?
Yeah. He's like, yeah, exactly. He's like, show me, so good. And that whole thing of like, he doesn't want to play the game. He's like, I'm tired. Like, I've been out in the field before. Like, just let's not bullshit with this. I know you're Bond, I'm me. And Bond's like, no, we have to go by protocol. I need to make sure you're the guy. I've been burned before. I've been through, 15 other films. You need to let me. So
you don't understand.
But the Valentin thing, which I did choose their dialogue for my best lines for this movie, are where, well, it's not the Valentin dialogue, although that was cool when he's like, my leg acts up when it rains. He goes, tell him. And the guy goes, well, it depends on the rain. And he goes, shut up. And it's so great. But it was the one when Jack Wade is talking to him, and he's like, who's our connection here? And he goes, an ex-KGB agent named, I forget his last name. And he's like, he goes, and he walks with a limp on his right leg. And he's like, Dmitriev? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, how do you know him? And he goes, I gave him the limp. And you're like, fucking yes, awesome, so cool.
Yep.
And then when they meet, you're like, oh shit, he's pissed about that leg thing. And then he shoots into the chair, and Bond like jumps, like, oh.
My problem is that scene was really well done, but I couldn't stop focusing on the fact that Minnie Driver was behind them singing, and that was Minnie Driver, like probably her first big little role, whatever, being the main singer on that, and then him turning around telling her to shut up because he said that she who strangled the cat. He's like, that's my mistress or whatever, and then she does the like that and walks off. I was like, that was Minnie Driver.
And I don't know if, because Pierce Brosnan was talking about how his kids were friends with her, so I don't know if they brought her into like in the movie or what. But I think she might have been another. But when but that was their first scene that they shot in this movie, was that scene. That's why it's so good. And it's just so good, that back and forth. And there was a part where Pierce Brosnan he's got to hold the gun to the back, and he said he had just had his hand in like a cast because he hurt himself, and so he said his pinky kept popping out from the gun. And Martin Campbell would be, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, I'm sorry. Hang on. And he tried it again. He goes, all you got to do is, he goes, get him a rubber gun. Pierce Brosnan's like, fuck that. No rubber gun. Give me a real gun. Fuck that. He's like, I can do it. He's like, okay. So he takes the real gun, and then he finally tells the prop people, like, give me a Band-Aid. And he tapes his finger down to the gun so when you see that's his finger like taped to the gun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Sorry about my dogs. That's me. That's like I'm like a genie or something. And then the Turkish
just calling for the help.
That's right. On top attacks, and he puts her on the fucking hot coals.
Yes. I was like, oh my god, that.
Yeah, and then hits that other guy with the pan or with whatever that thing was.
Yeah.
And then the cemetery, and now you see 006 has survived, and then Bond shot with the dart. but before that was but during this was it, Alex Trevelyan was going to be like Bond's like somebody that Bond looked up to, like an older person.
Oh,
They
okay.
were looking at Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, wow.
And here's what made me think about it. They talked about how well Anthony Hopkins was in Mask of Zorro, later with Campbell,
Antonio Banderas and Campbell, yeah.
with Martin Campbell. But what I was thinking of was they must have taken that idea and put it into Mission Impossible 2. Because remember, he was like the older mentor that Tom Cruise came to at the house. And so I was like, oh, interesting.
It's funny how much like little bits are probably just stolen from different.
Yeah. Where they're like, wait a minute, this guy was going to do this. Or they're totally stolen. Like, hey, somebody's doing Wyatt Earp. Let's do Tombstone and come out first. Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, somebody's doing Armageddon. Let's do Deep Impact and come out first. Okay. And then this part I really don't like. They wake up in the helicopter. He wakes up, he's in the helicopter, she's screaming. I like that it just starts out like she's screaming right away, which I've told you I love on Mission Impossible 3, where it starts out with him sorry about my dog, everybody. Chip will have to edit all that out. But on Mission Impossible 3, it starts out with him he's tied to a chair. And his wife's tied to a chair. And this would be a cool opening for a Bond film, is just him tied in a thing and the helicopter's going to explode and just her screaming, and he wakes up and he's like, what's going on? Yeah. But the thing that bothers me is like, you put an eject button by where your head is. Like, is that really part of the helicopter? I didn't look up an Apache helicopter eject system, but I don't think that there's a button right there. So it was like, so that's where I'm always like, and like somebody said on that Everything Wrong with Goldeneye, it was like, wouldn't you dismantle the ejector part so they couldn't get out because you want to kill them? But also, wouldn't you kill Bond right away and not just shoot him with a dart and put him somewhere to have him die later when you know that he has incredible luck and he's going to get away? And so.
Well, I guess that would all be on the part of the bad guy having an arrogance about themselves of what they're capable of.
Very true, which they've always said a good bad guy is one that's like, I'm doing nothing wrong. Like, and on the other end of that is where you think of, come here, the thing where you think about, what's the thing that I was going to say? Oh, that Bond is already going through a problem with killing 006. He's got a problem with it, kind of. 006 probably has the same problem too. He doesn't want to hurt Bond or kill Bond, but he knows that he should, and he's still kind of mad because he's got burns on his face because of the 3 years and not 3 minutes and not 6 minutes.
Yeah.
But then when the Russians capture him and that guy the general throws him the gun and he says it's a British agent killed him, and you're like, oh shit. And then her and Bond have to escape, and Bond uses that belt. And you're like, okay, that was cool. Like, he used the belt to swing across the thing, and she falls and she gets captured. And there's that quick scene, he looks out the window and there's a bunch of tanks and he runs off, and you're just like, okay, maybe that when you're first seeing it, you don't really think about it. You're just like, oh, okay, that's where he is. And then all of a sudden, she is captured and Bond steals that tank. Mm-hmm. And you just, as they come by that big wall, and she turns and they're coming toward camera, and all of a sudden out of the wall comes this tank just fucking with him in the front of it. And
the look on her face when she looks back and just sees him, and she just smiles. She's like, yeah. But I'm sitting here going, all this damage. I'm like, did they build this whole thing for them to just take takes through? Because that seems like that would be a lot of money. Because obviously they weren't going to go through a real city doing all this damage. Like, they're not, you know what I mean? It's like, unless there's an area that they're already planning on decimating, which wouldn't be that big of an area where they'd go, you know what, this is all condemned, we're going to destroy this, So
no, it was way cool. but that's what I think too, is like, oh my God, did they destroy all this? And you think it's Russia, but they didn't really film in Russia. They filmed somewhere else. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But another little behind the scenes thing, although it's still cool, but Pierce Brosnan's like, oh, I get to drive a tank. What do I have to do when I get in the front? Like, where am I sitting?
Yeah.
And he goes, they just put him on like an Apple box, no controls in there. And they're like, we're going to do everything. So he goes, I'm doing all this. I'm doing nothing. I'm just sitting on a box and I'm doing this, acting like I'm driving. And the part that I love is when after he stops and the cop cars slam into him and he straightens his tie and then he fucking jerks it forward again. Oh, so cool. So fucking badass. And then the armored train, and you're like, where'd Bond go? And all of a sudden he comes out of the tunnel and you're like, fucking yes.
I was sitting there though. I think that also was the suspension of disbelief type of a situation.
Yeah.
Where when I saw it the first time, I was like, how did he get so far ahead of them?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know they were stopped for a while before they started up the train.
Yeah.
But that tank is not going to be that fast.
That was
just, hey, I'm going to get in right here to get in the way.
Yeah. On everything wrong with, that's what they said. They were like, how did that train was already going and a tank went faster than a train? I don't think so. Yeah. But still, it was cool when he comes out of the thing. But yeah, a little bit of you goes, wait a minute. Wait, they're going that way. He's going, wait a minute. And then wait.
There you are.
Continue. Okay.
You froze.
And but anyway, when he has Alec, yeah, it says connection is unstable. I don't know why. I'm trying to fix it. And then the general has a girl at gunpoint, and Alec says 2 targets, time enough for 1 shot. The girl or the mission. Bond says, kill her. She means nothing to me.
The look on her face.
And Bond kills the general, and Alec and Xenia escape, and then Bond's like looking for that escape hatch. And then, yeah, later on when she's like, why did you say, like, kill me? And he's like, it's, you call their bluff. And she's like, oh, okay. And, but then when Alec calls on the radio, and again, if you're a bad guy, you're not going to tell the guy, like, I'm giving you the same 6 minutes you gave me. You're just going to fly away. And Bond will go, oh, well, we got to get out of here. Kaboom.
Yeah. Yep.
But then thered be no Bond.
That's true.
But so he calls him on the radio, says that, and the part with the where he uses the laser watch to get out of the train, when like Q didn't give him that this time. That was something Q gave him in like Live and Let Die. He had laser watch, and all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, he's still got the laser watch. And I think they did that on Skyfall or one of the newest one, the Spectre.
Yeah,
like a laser watch. Which is weird because with the way that the Craig movies are going, they're slowly starting to become where Q gives him gadgets.
Yeah.
And Spectre, I remember he's tied up and you're thinking, how's he going to get out? And he's got a gadget to cut himself out of a chain or whatever. And it's kind of like, oh, come on. It's kind of like now you're upset about it when before you're like, sweet.
Yeah.
Now you're like, oh, so,
Well, and it's in situations like that where, like, even the laser watch, I'd much rather it be something of, like, say, instead of cutting something. Well, yeah, but something like say he needs a diversion, so he sets the watch down next to a car and sets the laser against where it's going to slowly, cut through to hit the gas tank and explode something, to where he'll be all the way over here where they're all running towards that, something like that, where it's, not just, oh, well, I need to cut this lock.
Like a hologram, like Total Recall. Actually, I just remembered in Live and Let Die, it was a really cool watch because it had a blade around it. So he's tied up, and then he turns it on, and he's able to cut through the rope because the rope's like tied right here, and he just and cuts through the rope. So it's very cool.
That's awesome.
They had the laser watch somewhere else, but and then now they're on the beach, and he's talking about killing 006, but he's kind of torn. She knows that they're going to have to kill each other, and he knows it too. He's just kind of putting it off when it's like, don't put it off too long. the end of the world will happen, and you'll be like, oh, I should have maybe went a little about it, maybe an hour earlier. Maybe I shouldn't have had sex. Maybe if I would have, maybe that would have helped.
Now London's going to be
Yeah,
blasted back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, they'll have no money in the banks, and now when you go to take your woman out for dinner, there'll be no money in the bank because it's all gone now. And that's their big plan, like to use this EMP and then steal the money from the banks. And then they're in the plane, and there's a rocket, and they crash, and on the top repels down from the helicopter when they're like, what's going on? And she just hates, she either hates, she loves killing people. That's what it is. She's just a murderer.
Yeah.
And
when she gets off on all the killing and all the pain, like anything that inflicts it, like she's just like, you're like, okay, well, I guess she doesn't need a man.
Like that scene at the space thing when she first shows up and just mows them all down, and she's just like got this big gleeful look on her face, and it's like, holy shit. Mm-hmm. But I love how Bond grabs her machine gun and shoots a helicopter, and she's still tied to it, and it's like, oh, and it starts going down, and it's right between like a Y-shaped, tree, and she gets stuck up on that, and she basically gets squeezed to death, which is due justice for her because she squeezes people to death. And
it's weird though, because that little cut scene of her going towards the tree, mm-hmm. When it was in the trailer thing that we were watching before, it almost looks like Bond is like you think it's Bond because it's so clipped so quick that it looks like going towards, like jumping towards the tree.
Oh,
like jumping to use it as a balancing area to jump through or something like that. And then when you watch the movie, you realize it's actually her being flung towards it. So
yeah. And then that satellite dish comes out of the water, although it's filmed in reverse. But you're like, okay, I believe it. Yeah. But that's the same dish from Contact. And I think, did you and I see Contact together? Or was that me and Joe Weedman? Let me ask you this then. Do you remember sitting in the movie theater to watch Contact? It starts out totally silent because it's out in space. Mm-hmm. And it comes in closer and closer to the Earth. And as it gets closer, then you hear Elvis Presley, you hear FDR, you hear JFK. Like it's getting closer and closer to the sound waves that are going out, and then it gets right into the Earth. But when it started, it was totally silent. And these two old people sitting in front of me, this is why I asked if it was you, were like, honey, I can't hear anything. So what's going on? I don't know. Go tell somebody. Okay, I'll go tell. And the guy gets up and goes to tell somebody. And then the sounds start. Then you hear like Elvis or whatever. And it's like, no, this is how it, just give it a little bit. Like you missed the coolest part.
Yeah, I don't think that was me, but that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was Joe. And then Alex sees them and wants them killed. And also says that the target is London. And they're getting Goldeneye ready. Bond puts a bomb on that fuel tank and then like gives up. He's like, okay. And you're like, oh shit, when's that going on? And they're going to steal the money from the Bank of London, cover the tracks with Goldeneye. Boris picks up the pen. You can join in anytime. I'm just going through my notes.
Yeah, the Boris thing, I love that character. I think honestly, as far as all the casting for any Bond movie, I think that the amount of people that are in this and the right casting just worked.
Yeah.
It was, nobody faltered in their job. Like everybody was perfect for their job. It was crazy. I was sitting there going, with the whole Boris thing and his interaction with everyone, I don't know, just and him having his own personality. Sometimes it's, they give those the techie nerd people just kind of like the yes sir, no sir, blah blah blah, I'll do whatever you say, sir, sniveling little bastard. But this guy's like, I'm invincible, just like, and he's basically coming right out and just showing that I'm,
that, and he's got the, he's kind of a sexist himself, where he's like, oh, and he's flirting with them, but also, you're right. It's usually like just like, hang on, let me get into the mainframe. I gotta click, and it's like, come on. And this guy's got more. Yeah. And this is where I think this might have been the first time we saw Alan Cumming, but I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But something that Pierce Brosnan said was like, I think it was Pierce Brosnan that said like, oh, here's Alan Cumming in a church on Goldeneye. And he goes, just like in the X-Men when he lived in the church. It was like, oh yeah. So, but
Weird.
yeah, you know,
And the fact that he knew that.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But that's what was cool was like, I guess Pierce Brosnan was friends with that general guy. Like he's like, rest in peace. Like this guy was a real nice guy. Like all this stuff and friends. Like he's friends with still the stunt guy that he talked with that did the bungee jump. He said we talked, you know, met the other day and was like, oh my God, I haven't heard from you for so long. And
wow,
you know,
that's awesome.
You know, so but the part, speaking of Boris, that I really like is when he's like, you know, Alec is like, check the mainframe. She was in the mainframe. And he's like, she knows nothing. How would she even know? She's just a second grade programmer. And all of a sudden the alarm, ding, ding, ding.
It's like,
And she just
no.
has a smile on her face. And it's like so good. And he's like, okay, I'll figure it out. And wants her to change it back. And Alec puts a gun to Bond's cheek.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, shoot him. He means nothing to me. And you're like, oh, fucking sweet. So, and then the pen stuff where you're trying to keep track. Was that 3? Was that 2? If I'm Bond, I lose track of the pen thing. Like, and is it 1, 2, 3 consecutively, or could it be 1, 2, 3?
Yeah.
You know, you know what counts. Come
Well,
on, Q, explain, old man.
Well, that was my problem, though. It's supposed to be 3 to arm, 3 to disarm, right?
Yeah.
But Q did, when it did the 3 to arm, and he took it and he goes, stop playing around. And he only did 2.
Right. And I remember thinking that it was 3 to arm and 2 to disarm. And then when I wrote down what he said, it was like, oh, it's 3 to arm and 3 to disarm. So
yeah, so technically Q would have blown up right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Stupid Bond stuff. It's gone. And then he asked if she knows how to shoot. So then they escape. Things start blowing up. And he's like, do you know how to shoot? And she takes a gun and racks it. You're like, sweet. And I says, not like End of Days where he's like, here's how you shoot a gun and you point, you know.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be. It's just, do you know how to shoot? Yeah, I do. Okay, cool. And then they go on. And they're going for the transmitter. And Boris breaks the code. And there's a pretty good fight with Bond and Alec, which is like, it's pretty good. I like it.
Well, the fight itself was not something that pulled, like, made me go, holy crap. Yeah.
Right.
It was earlier on when everybody else was trying to stop him and he was shooting everybody. Right. And there was a dude that he threw down the steps, but before the guy even landed at the end of the steps, he was still falling. Bond shot him. I was like, that is badass. Because I was just like, what the hell? And I was like, okay, he wanted to make sure.
Was that in the opening or when they were escaping? Like
when they were escaping.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, because I wrote it down here at the end part, shooting guy as he's going down the stairs, and I put in parentheses dish. So.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I missed that part. And the part that I really like, because I think I'm tricked every time that I watch a movie. Like all of a sudden Bond is fighting Alec and you forget about where's Natalia. I guess she just went off to get in the BMW and wait.
Yeah,
and the gunship's going to kill him. And all of a sudden she raises up from the back seat with the gun to the back of the guy's head. And you're like, fucking, oh, so good. Oh, fuck.
But I was still I was as much holding as he had to hold, like in the fight with Alec, and he's one-handed, he's stepping on his hand and all that stuff. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's like, all right, I'm just going to jump and grab onto this helicopter.
Yeah.
And have the strength to hold on until you get me all the way down hundreds of feet to the ground. Like, really?
Well, and that's why I never like when they have to hold the helicopter like by the big giant, landing gear, that round. But if you can put your arm around it and kind of hold and put all your might on like the inside of your elbow, that's a little better. But yeah, it's still though. But sometimes that's a thing where you go, in movies, they'll step on people's hands and they're like, oh, and you're like, really? Like I've had my hands kind of stepped on, but but then again, you're like, okay, if I'm hanging and all my weight is there and somebody's stepping on my hands, yeah, maybe I would. But anyway, it's a Bond film. We can't pick it apart, Chip. Come on. If so, then we got to pick apart Flash Gordon.
Ow.
Which Chip and I bought for $5 on iTunes.
We did.
So great. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to. And then Alec is hanging. Well, before he jumps, so Alec is hanging, and then he's like, "For England, James," and he's like, "No, for me." And he like lets him go, and you're like, "Okay, that was you didn't need to make a point. You could have arrested him, and you know." That's the whole point with Spectre was like, you know, not killing. Who's the main big bad guy that I can't even think of right now? Oh my gosh, who's the bad guy that Donald Pleasance plays? Dr. Evil, real guy. Anyway, I cannot believe I have him. I have a little Funko Pop of him. What the fuck? Everybody's yelling at me right now. Brant told me last time that he was yelling Kelly Lynch 4 times at the radio because I couldn't think.
This is what we call podcast interaction, people.
That's right.
You get to yell at us, or well, Phil.
Yeah.
You get to yell at Phil.
Yeah, well, you can yell at the YouTube or the podcast, but yell at
I'm
Jeff.
very frail.
Well, that's why you're supposed to help me figure out that it is. Oh, fuck! I was so close to figuring that out. Now I got to go to my phone.
He's phoning it in, people.
I don't want to go to my phone. That's right. That's what I'm doing.
It's a Gen X thing. We're gonna have to use Google.
I'm even
remember
pissed at myself that I can't think of his name. It's fuck. He killed Bond's wife, dude.
No.
Yeah, he did.
Maybe.
What's
Maybe
it?
he did it.
Do what?
Nothing.
What? You're defending him now? How dare you defend this guy?
I'm all screwing with you while you're looking it up.
Blofeld, motherfucker.
Blofeld.
Jesus Christ.
Pussy galore blowing. Like what?
Sorry, Brant. Sorry, everybody. Yeah, Blofeld. Yeah,
Blofeld.
Got a regular name, but anyway, Blofeld. Yeah, Blofeld, where he didn't kill Blofeld. He brought him back. Like you could have brought 006 back, just like you brought that other guy was an agent. The guy from No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He was an agent. You brought him back. Did you watch any of the Daniel Craig movies?
Yes.
Okay. Javier Bardem is his name.
Yes,
I saw you thinking about it.
The Eat, Pray, Love.
And yeah, I didn't see that one, but I hear it's good. And then Boris is Frozen. I'm Invincible.
Yeah, I put Boris Sickle,
which is pretty cool. That is a cool, like the way it looked. Like I'd love to have like put that.
I was wanting him to like shatter though.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be like, and then all of a sudden just like that, be like, oh, but like you know how they do some of it where it's all red on the inside because the blood that's frozen. Oh.
Yeah. Have Arnold shoot him, and then he would have broken to pieces. And then they're off the helicopter and they're making out, getting ready to have sex. And then Wade's like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, I thought you were going to have backup, you said. And he's like, yo, Marines. And 3 helicopters drop out of just off the top of the screen. Like if they were there, freaking Pierce Brosnan would have been like, we can't make out. There's 3 helicopters flying around right now. But
not just that,
viewers,
they're fighting on the dish thing.
Yeah.
Somebody could have sniped the dude that was trying to crush his hands.
For
him to fall. Like they're right there. They're like, oh, we should help him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're way over here. We're waiting for you over here. Where's my backup when I need it over there? I just killed 27 guys. Yes. Like that's when they go, oh, we should create a video game called Goldeneye where it's just him and everybody else against him. Which, by the way, Pierce Brosnan said, I played the game once. I shot myself in the foot. I did not do good.
Like, okay. They suck.
He's like, but everybody tells me that they love the game.
Well, you know what it was? It's like everybody, peace fighting 006, all this shit's going down, and they're off in the helicopters, and people are down on the ground, and they're all watching from a distance going, this Bond dude's badass.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what they're doing.
Yeah, they're just watching through they're just making bets on each other. So I bet he shoots a guy when he falls down the stairs. No. Oh my God, he did. You owe me 20. You think he'll get out? I don't know. I bet the girl doesn't know how to use a gun. I bet she doesn't either. Oh fuck, we both use. Hey, Colonel, we owe you money. Yeah. Oh, so cool. And then it ends with James Bond will return, which they finally brought that back because they never knew, how far, whether they were going to do another movie and all that. And they put that on there. And then I have some more facts. Goldeneye was the last Bond movie overseen by Albert Cubby Broccoli and the first to be produced by his daughter and current co-keeper of the franchise, Barbara Broccoli. Due to Cubby's poor health, he died 7 months after the film's release. Barbara and Michael W. Wilson took on day-to-day producing duties and have continued to do so for each subsequent Bond movie. So, and at the time, the movie was the most successful Bond film since 1979's Moonraker, which me and Joe Merle kind of couldn't believe. Like Moonraker, when we did our Moonraker episode, that one made like a lot of money. It was a big hit. So I guess they were right when they're like, hey, Star Wars, Star Trek, we need to put Bond in space.
Yeah.
Okay, it's fucking cheesy and stupid, but it fucking made a lot of money.
Yeah.
The only thing more popular than the movie was a Nintendo 64 game based on GoldenEye 007, considered one of the best shooters of all time by gamers, and it sold 8 million copies.
It would have sold more. The problem is that the way Nintendo worked back then, because they made cartridges for the system, they only had a limited amount of factories to actually make the games. So they actually stopped making GoldenEye to make, what was it called? Perfect Dark, or the girl. It was basically a girl version of
like
James Bond, like a GoldenEye type thing. Like the game was set up the same way. All of it was pretty much looked the same way. But yeah, so they had to stop production on that to make more to make that game.
Yeah.
For its release. And then they had to, once they stopped doing that, then they had to turn around and start making more GoldenEye. And there was a drought of GoldenEye that everybody was like freaking out, going, where the fuck is this game?
Yeah.
And, you know, because I worked at a game store and I'm like, I'm sorry. This is the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah, well, and maybe that other game is good then. If it's exactly just GoldenEye, just replicated with other people, it's probably a good game too. But people like to be Odd Job or James Bond or Jaws or whatever, except Jaws is so tall, and then Odd Job's so short, or the tattoo guy.
Or I like to call him Lenny and Squishy.
GoldenEye was the first Bond movie ever released on DVD, and my bracket for GoldenEye is, of course, I always talk about the theme just because at the end of Brosnan. So what I do, Chip, I haven't really explained to you. I kind of did, but my brackets are broke down by Sean Connery, George Lazenby, even though he only had the one, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, Pierce Brosnan. So it would be all the Pierce Brosnan ones. At the end of the series of each actor, then I say, okay, here was my favorite in Pierce Brosnan. Here, my favorite song of Pierce Brosnan would be GoldenEye. I can tell you that now.
Yeah.
Bond moment might be out of this movie, but we'll see. Anyway, then at the end of the whole thing, like Daniel Craig, then I'll put them all and go, okay, my favorite theme of all time, of all Bond films, my favorite Bond moment of all of them, my favorite pre-credit sequence, my favorite gadget, favorite villain, favorite Bond girl, and best lines. So I added best lines semi-recently. Joe Merle was like, you need to add best lines after Moonraker. Was like, I think he's attempting re-entry, sir. And he was like, oh my gosh.
That sounds personal.
Yeah. So the Bond moment is the tank through the walls got to be like the best. Like, and that's because this is a Bond moment. The other one's pre-credit sequence. So Bond moment is tank through the wall, and then bungee jump and jumping after the plane is the pre-credit sequence. So probably jumping after the plane, because it was just that bungee jump was amazing, but probably going after the plane was just like, oh my God, he's riding a motorcycle. What's he gonna do? Oh my God.
Yeah.
The gadget would be, I think I like the belt. I said maybe the laser watch because it was a callback, but I think that belt, I just like that he, of course he's in a predicament again where he needs, I just happen to have this belt that I need, but it was cool. There was a thing that he had in License to Kill where it was a cummerbund that he took off and he opened it up and it had like a grappling hook and all this stuff in it, and it was like really cool. It was really cool though because it was made good. Then he had toothpaste and it was C4 and he plastique, and he put it along the bottom of the window and then put in was going to blow up Robert Davi. Oh, so cool. Anyway, the villain is 006 and Xenia Onatopp. So I count them both, just like in View to a Kill, I count Christopher Walken and that girl. It's on the tip of my tongue again. Black girl, musician. Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah.
Used to be married to Dolph Lundgren.
David Bowie.
Glory.
No.
Something with a G.
Was she married to David Bowie?
No.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
You're thinking of Iman.
Oh.
Anyway, everybody stop screaming at me. I fucking know who you're talking about. Jesus Christ. These are the things that I run into, Chip, especially when I'm doing it by myself. And before I've started to be like, well, I'm going to be a loser and I'm going to check my phone, because otherwise I just sit there and I keep trying it.
You know what's awesome? Grace
Jones.
Grace Jones.
I did that without, you just said Grace. I said GR. You heard me say GR. Anyway.
Yeah. But what's awesome about this is they're not just going to be yelling at you when they're listening to the podcast.
Right.
It's going to be all in the comments below.
Right.
This video on
video.
YouTube.
Or they're going to point behind me and go, dude, fucking look at the poster. And you'll see, oh, well, she's not in the poster, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And Bond Girl was Isabella Scorupco as Natalia Simonova. The best lines was the one that I told you about. Who's the competition? An ex-KGB guy, tough mother, got a limp in his right leg, named Zukovsky. Valentin Dmitriev Zukovsky? Yeah, you know him? I gave him the limp. So, pretty cool. Anyway, Chip, that's the end of my show. Anyway, do you have anything to say before I end with my little thing of what's coming up and all that good stuff?
Not really. I'm just happy to be here, and I want to do this more. And I'm glad. I mean, this is a good starting point as far as us talking about Goldeneye being where 6 years, breaking between Bond movies, right? Is that what you said? 6 years?
Yeah.
So with the amount like that, it's kind of cool that Goldeneye is a starting point, and for us, this is a starting point for video with the podcast.
Yeah,
like it's just kind of cool.
Yeah,
timing wise, and especially since you took a break from doing Bond until now.
Yeah,
for this also.
Exactly. Yeah. What was funny with me taking the break is, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a break because I'm tired of Bond. So then I take a break, and then all of a sudden, because of my Google, because of stuff that I look up, pictures or whatever that I got to put to share on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever, all of a sudden all my feed was like, here's a James Bond thing, here's this. And then I was going, man, I miss James Bond. I really kind of miss it. Yeah. And then I'm like, do I really miss, because I was really pushing myself to like get everything done by April 10th.
Yeah.
And then when it got postponed, I was like, okay, I'll just finish with Timothy Dalton, then I'll join back up. And then I'm like, you know what? I can't wait to get into this. And now I'm like, okay, now I'm into it. So, and with this last run of films that I'm doing, as before, when it was like, okay, anybody want to do the podcast? Nobody. So it was me doing, like I said, like 11 shows by myself, which was fine. But it's a little better where now I have you on this one. Tomorrow Never Dies will be Brant, helping me out. That'll be on August 26th. He'll be on the show. And then in between that, I'll do a watch list where maybe you'll join me or whatever. We'll figure that out, what I've been watching, and then either movie news or whatever, which, by the way, movie news, you heard Mulan, that they're charging $30. Disney Plus is going to charge. I just heard this yesterday. I'm glad that I can tell you the news now.
Yeah.
So Mulan is coming out on Disney Plus, but it's going to cost an extra $30. So you get the movie, but you don't just get it for like how the movies are coming out now, like Troll. You buy Trolls for $20. You can watch it for 24 hours and it's gone.
Yeah.
This will be, you buy it, you have it, you can watch it whenever.
Oh, okay.
But it makes sense because if you have a big family, you're going to spend more than that or about that going to the movies.
Yeah.
But for people like you and your wife and me and my wife, is like $30. Is it really worth it to watch Mulan? So
well, and you're going to want to wait. You're going to want the reviews to come out and listen to what people have to say about it.
But also that it's kind of like a lot of people are saying this might be the way cinema's going now.
Yeah.
Is just, that's what it's going to be. Here's your movie for $30 or $20, and and another guy I listened to on YouTube called Cereal at Midnight, and spelled like what you eat, cereal. Is he was talking about that now this will bring down. You won't have all the Marvel, all the $1 million movies coming out to try to make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now it's going to go back to kind of your slower, like I told you to let everybody know on my watch list, and then we'll end the show, is that I watched Wanted Dead or Alive that I told you with Rutger Hauer. That's a good little movie.
Yeah.
Nothing spectacular, no great big stuff. It's just like a 1989 like action movie.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And they're going to start doing that. So you'll have these mid-level movies, not just independents, not these big blockbusters. Blockbusters might be over now.
Yeah.
If everybody's watching at home, or you only go to the theater every once in a while, who knows, but yeah, they're talking about, which I hate. I love going to the cinema. I love movies, but it's, the way of the world, things change, I guess.
Yeah. And they'll have to balance everything financially. They'll have to figure out, because if this is the new way of doing it and it's all done in house and they're already figuring $30.
Yeah. Well,
they could probably make more, but they don't want to push it,
Well, and it's like, look at Trolls. Remember, they were like, oh, Trolls made a whole bunch of money, did this big blockbuster.
Yeah.
on rental or whatever when it came out. But the thing is that Mulan cost more than that. It's a live action movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know that they put a lot into it. Same thing with Black Widow. Everybody's going, oh, just release Black Widow already. No, they spent a lot of money on Black Widow. And that's why Christopher Nolan's like, no, I love cinema. Tenet needs to come out in the theaters at the cinema. But hey, if nothing opens and you only have selected theaters open, you can't release Tenet, and at the drive-ins they're playing old stuff, Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, So, you're going to have this drought of like no new movies. That's why it's kind of cool when Netflix all of a sudden will be like, hey, we got the old guard. Boom. Here you go.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, sweet.
I still haven't watched that yet.
Oh, you should. It's good. But anyway, okay. So I told you what's coming. And My Celluloid Heart is big and gets bigger with every new movie I watch. And for Chip's YouTube people, this is my show. This is what I do. I trip over words, and I can't think of what actor was in what movie. Sometimes I can. Sometimes I pull shit out of my head like, oh yeah, Automan with Desi Arnaz Jr. Nobody knows that. But then you ask me who was the bad guy in James Bond, and I go, I don't know who Blofeld is. So yeah. All right. I guess that is all. So
Sounds good.
There we go. All right. You got a sign off or anything? Or well, I guess you don't do a sign off on my podcast, but this is your video. My podcast ends before you say anything. I'm cutting you out of the whole thing.
Well, and I'm gonna do my own little extra video at the end.
Oh, okay. Being like, so that sucked, right? High five. Yeah. All right. All right then. Okay. Thank you everyone for listening. And until next time, I'm Philip. And until whenever,
I'm Chip.
dun, 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 dun.
Wow.